temple keeper for the Chosen Path Church, a full temple of the Correllian Nativist Church, and she is a Correllian shaman. She is, shouldn't it be shaman? She is a charter member of the Northeast Florida Pagan Leadership Coalition. In her secular life, she is a project manager for a major world bank. Go figure. She has 2 grown children. She volunteers in several employee networks at the bank, including the LGBT Allies and the CFO Diversity and Inclusion Council. She is going to do the meditation, and then she will do the sermon.
Give me a minute to get set up. For the meditation, just like the UU has their guiding principles, so does the Correllian Nativist tradition. And it's a creed. And so I'd like to share that creed with you as a meditation. And I'd like you to kind of think about, as I'm going through it, and notice the similarities between the UU covens and those of the Correllian Nativist tradition. We believe that inner truth is universal in nature. That is, it expressed in outward forms. Deity comes to each person in a way that is best for that person and which is unique to him or her. We believe that the gods are layman's ways of understanding and interacting with deity. These many faces are equally true and equally valid. They are all attempts to understand the ultimate transcendence nature of deity. We believe in the providence of deity, that all things happen according to the will of deity, and mental levels and it's all for the ultimate good. We believe that as humans, we have many levels to our beings. These include the physical, the emotional, and the mental levels, as well as the astral and soul levels. We believe in reincarnation, and that the soul is created from deity, and it is never separate from deity. The soul shares on the inner level the attributes of deity, which include immortality, magic, and the power of the soul. We believe in a living and spiritually sentient universe, of which all galaxies, stars, and planets are components. The earth is one of these components, and it is an equally living and spiritually sentient being, as well as all systems and creatures of earth are components of it. We believe that everything is in a state of constant and ultimately beneficial growth and evolution. This growth and evolution occurs to all existence, be it the soul, the planet, the universe, all being a mirror of divinity, which evolves and grows as well. We believe in the Wiccan Rede, do as you will, but harm none. It is the highest moral statement. It is the effective pattern for a moral life. We believe in the ultimate truth is beyond the understanding of humans. Therefore, it is natural for a person's belief and deity should develop to reflect that individual personal relationship with the divine. We believe that all religions should acknowledge one another as kindred and stand together as equals. Our similarities far outweigh our differences. So that's the Correllian Creed. And that's my phone ringing. I purely apologize. That would be my Sunday FaceTime call from my daughter as she walks me around her under construction house. Can y'all hear me on this mic? Okay. I'm a wanderer, so I'm going to wander. I would like to thank Philip, who is not here, for inviting me to speak today. He was quite shocked when he found out that my spiritual journey began here. In 2010, I was a member of the Cups group that met here. And I was what I'd like to call a Barnes & Noble Wiccan. Now, I became a Barnes & Noble Wiccan around a Girl Scout campfire one night. I was a Girl Scout leader, and I had a fellow leader that did a missionary trip to Jamaica every year. And every year, I would give her a check to support her trip. This particular year, she seemed bent to label me as a Christian because I was supporting her missionary trip. And I had not been a Christian since age 23. I left the Roman Catholic Church when they told my sainted mother that she was going to purgatory for using a diaphragm for birth control. She died praying, asking us to pray her out of purgatory. So I searched for many years, but I was not a Christian. She said, well, if you're not a Christian, what are you? I said, well, I haven't found a religion that I can say, I buy this totally. There was always a yes, but. Sometimes it was the religious doctrine, sometimes it was the political ramifications, and I'm a meat eater. So she said, well, how do you live your life? You live like a Christian. I said, well, I have 3 rules that I have developed that I live my life by. The first one is I can do anything I want as long as I don't hurt someone else or myself. The second one is all life is sacred. And we each have our own definition of life. Mine is everything. Animals, plants, rocks, air. Everything that is some form of life. And that is sacred. And the third one is that I can't just take from the world. I have to participate. I have to give back. I have to do service. The world has to be better off for me having been here. And this is how I lived my life. One of the other leaders piped up. She says, Laurie, I know exactly what religion you are. I'm like, ooh, really? I've been looking for 30 years. Lay it on me. She says, you're Wiccan. I'm like, oh no, that's something the girls are into. That's just a fad. She says, no, you're Wiccan. Trust me. She gave me a few books to read. And she said, now when you've read these, come over to the house and we'll talk. So I went over to Jessica's house. And I said, Jessica, guess what? She says, what? I'm Wiccan! And I became a voracious reader, learner. I think I have every book in Barnes & Noble related to the Wiccan faith. However, my husband had a strong objection to this. Even though he had the same spiritual path. He was not Christian. He bought into these 3 rules. This is how we raised our family together. But as soon as that word witch got attached to those religious beliefs, suddenly it was something dark, dangerous, sinful. Out of respect to my husband, who had problems of his own, I went into the closet. Fast forward several years, we wound up separating because of his drug abuse and the danger that that put my family in. Prescription drugs, by the way. But we were still husband and wife. And I would go out to lunch with him and do my wifely duties, clean his apartment, take him grocery shopping, go to the doctor with him. And one day at one of these lunches, he says, "So is this witch thing gonna stick?" And I said, "Yeah, it is. I think so." I said, "But don't worry, I've never even been to a ritual." So on the way home, I'm thinking, okay, I can do what I want now. Why haven't I been to a ritual? So I started looking, and I found Jack's Pagan Pride Association. And a lovely lady named Holly Charlin was starting a Wiccan 101 class here at the UU. So I came, and my first ritual was out in the rose garden at the little altar, and I haven't looked back. So my journey started here. The first exposure I had to a practicing Wiccan was a Correllian. So, you know, substance to form, that's what you explore first, so what do you got access to, right? The Correllian Nativist tradition is a blend of Wicca and Native American beliefs. Blends are quite common in the pagan world. Up in Fernandina, we have a Druid Wiccan group. Pagans tend to think outside the box, so they don't mind, you know, emptying the box here and emptying the box there and kind of mixing stuff up. But those of you that have not been exposed to paganism before, let me put it in the analogy of an umbrella. In the Christian religion, if you put that as an umbrella, and under each one of those umbrellas, you've got other umbrellas. You have the Catholics, you have the Protestants, probably some others. But then you look under the Protestant umbrella, and you've got the Methodists, the Baptists, the Church of Christ. There's a lot of different Protestant religions. Well, paganism is the exact same way. The Correllian tradition defines paganism as any religion that does not have one singular holy book that they follow. So we think as Buddhists as pagans, Hindus as pagans. You got the Nordic pagan paths, you got all of the cultural pagan paths from around the world. Then you look under that umbrella and you find the Wiccan umbrella. Well, under that Wiccan umbrella, there's a lot of other umbrellas too. You got the Gardnerians, you got the Alexandrians, you got the Correllians, you got the Cobb. I could probably name a half a dozen more. So when you talk to someone that says they're Wiccan, it's like talking to someone that says they're Protestant. You're in the ballpark, but you don't quite know what you got yet. Okay? So let me explain what you got when you talk to a Correllian. Think about that creed that I just read. The thing that really attracted me and made me stay with Correllianism is that belief that all religions are valid. I grew up in a home that was very open to us exploring other religions. I would go to church camp with my friends. I would go to their youth group. My mother was totally cool with us being with anybody. But 9 times out of 10, I learned what was wrong with other religions instead of about that religion I was visiting with. And they were very quick to point out what was wrong with Catholics. Think of deity as a diamond. I was holding up a diamond. Each one of you in this room is looking at that same diamond. But each one of you is looking at it from a slightly different point of view. So you're going to get a different reflection of that deity. All of them are looking at the same deity. All of them are equally valid from your point of view. And that's the way the Correllians treat other religions. We honor all religions. At Chosen Path Church, I believe this so strongly, I have non-Correllians on my board of directors. Everyone has the right to develop their own relationship with deity that works for them. Doesn't have to work for you. You're not practicing it. It just has to work for that one person. I've already talked about the Wiccan Reed, and we also believe in the threefold rule. Some people call it the karma rule. Some people take it literally, we kind of don't. But there is a threefold rule that says whatever you do will come back to you threefold. You put out good energy, you get good energy back 3 times. Put out bad energy, you get bad energy back 3 times. We kind of have a little twist on that makes us a little different. Whatever you do generates a reaction. And if it generates something bad, there is a lesson there. There is something valuable that you can learn when that energy comes back. And until you learn that lesson, it will keep on coming back. Maybe one time, maybe 1,000, maybe this time, maybe another. But until you learn that life lesson that the universe is trying to teach you, that lesson will keep on being revisited upon you. We also believe in reincarnation. Many, many pagan religions do ancestor veneration. We kind of take that as a little different tilt. We don't believe that when you die, your contribution is over. We believe that your higher self, that thing that is eternal in you, travels from lifetime to lifetime and exists between lifetimes. So we have the ability to call on the higher selves of our ancestors and ask them for guidance. Ask them, make them our sounding board. Well, what do you think about this? And we call them spiritual 2x4s. If you're not listening, they will make you listen. And it's all about those lessons. They are there to help you learn those lessons, help you to analyze what is happening so that you can get the lesson out of it and move on. Okay? So that's what makes Correllian Wicca a little bit different than your other Wiccan organizations. Now, the Correllian Church was started in 1879. It's not a new thing. It was based on the beliefs of Scottish traditional witchcraft. And I forgot it already, Lord Don. Pronounce it for me. Aradian witchcraft and the Spiritualist Church. Mixed in with the Cherokee cultural beliefs of our founder, beloved Orpheus Caroline High Corral. She was our first high priestess. This tradition continued for almost 100 years as a familial tradition, which is very common in paganism. It's either closely held within the culture or within a particular family. But the ancestors gave permission and guidance in the 70s to take this tradition public, and it was done. About 10, 15 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark, the tradition created witchschool.com. Catchy name, huh? It is a place where you can get a pagan education from many paths, anywhere, anytime. It's an online school. And through the outreach that this created, the tradition exploded exponentially versus what we could do with boots on the ground. Since 2015, it has been a nonprofit. It is now our seminary, Correllian Educational Ministries. The Correllian tradition is represented in 112 countries around the world. It has a very defined structure of high priesthood, elders, councils, and departments. We provide content and guidance and training and fellowship for all of those through local temples and online. The next question that Philip asked me to talk about is, why is my faith important to me? And I think anybody that has a faith makes it important to them. But my faith teaches that the divine is in everything, down to the cellular level. I always get a kick when I read a new article online about how quantum physics is actually validating a lot of the core beliefs of the pagan community through science. They're catching up to us. It's important because it gives me a view that is beyond this life cycle. I know I'm going to continue. My higher self has another lifetime ahead of it, and ahead of it, and ahead of it, and ahead of it. So that affects how I make decisions. That affects how I take on projects. Is this a current life cycle project, or is this something I'm going to work on for many life cycles? It's provided me mentors and friends throughout the tradition that I cannot measure how they have enriched my life. Much like the one lady that spoke earlier found her family here, I found a family in the Correllian nativist tradition. It has also given me my mother back. This was a big one. I used to live in Central Florida, and I would commute an hour and a half one way to UCF to complete my accounting degree. And one night driving home, my mother and I's song came on the radio. Remember Helen Reddy, You and Me Against the World? That's my mama and my song. I literally had to pull off the side of the road. I was crying so hard because she had been gone about 12 years at that point. And it dawned on me in my view of reincarnation at that time that there was a 12-year-old out there somewhere leading her new life, or his new life, that didn't know who Laurie Denman was, didn't know how much I loved her, didn't know how much I missed her. Through the work of ancestry veneration and communication within the Correllian tradition, I went to Lord Don at a lustration, which is our biannual gatherings. And I asked him, I said, Lord Don, my mother died a devout Catholic. I would like to call my mother into the circle, and I would like to honor and venerate her. But I don't want to offend her. I'm not sure that she would approve of what I have become. And he said, don't assume that one stops growing when one dies. The concepts that we have based on our place of birth or our upbringing in a life cycle are not the only ones that are stored in the higher self. Shortly after that, I had a reading, a tarot reading from a complete stranger. She didn't know me from squat. And she told me that there was a woman trying to contact me through the veil. And this woman wanted to support me in my endeavors. Now, this woman didn't even know I had endeavors. And she said this woman is surrounded by children, 30 or so. My mother was a teacher. And she gave me several other signs that I knew this was Mama. So I could not wait until the next circle. And I asked my mother to join me in the circle. And she has become my spirit guide. My first spirit guide, even before I became a shaman, was my mother. So the tradition and its teachings of don't make assumptions, because we don't know what we don't know, gave me my mother back. We have a birthday party on her birthday every year in the astral plane. I talk to her every day, and I got Mama. The next question Philip asked me to answer was how I connect to the divine through my religion. Now, there's a lot of different ways. I don't think anybody has one way to connect. Meditation and prayer. Do a lot of meditation. Not as much as I would like to, because I have dogs. And they gotta go out right away in the morning. I lay in the bed and I don't move. And I do a morning meditation and hope that they don't know that I'm awake. Ritual. For us, that is our service. Just like you come to Sunday service here, a ritual to us is our service. And then acts of service. I shine my light of the divine out on the world through acts of service. Some of them public, some of them private. Best acts of service are the ones nobody ever finds out about. But that's how I live my faith. And you're saying, okay, Reverend Laurie, that's how most people live their faith. What makes your tradition different? Spells. One of the questions I get a lot about is spells. Witchcraft stuff, y'all do spells. Okay, so let's break that down. Witchcraft is the knowledge that we have the ability to change energy. Some people call it manipulate energy. I call it change because manipulate has a negative connotation for those with unconscious bias. But we change energy. We focus energy. What does a prayer do? When you are praying, you have a need, or you're saying thank you, and you are focusing energy into a communication between you and the divine. That's the same thing that the spell does. Catholics have been practicing candle magic for centuries. We know that certain molecular structure of things, or colors, or sound, interact with other molecular structures of things. So we put these things together and create a spell. A spell can be a spoken word. A spell can be using certain items or herbs or rocks or incense or whatever that work well together to generate the expected outcome. So when you hear of a witch casting a spell, think of it as a prayer. One of our basic tenets of witchcraft is you cannot cast a spell on someone without their permission. That's intrusive and assumptive. What I assume they need may not be what they think they need. So when we cast a spell, it's done with the knowledge of those it impacts, and it's done for a beneficial outcome. Okay? The other thing that's different is manifestation work. Chosen Path Church is a great manifestation generator. 80% of the pagan population are solitaries. They have either been raised in the pagan faith as a solitary, or they have left some other religion and have not yet dumped the baggage that makes them leery of organized religion. So they practice as solitaries. They can do manifestations. I'm not saying they can't. But when you bring together a group of people in prayer, doesn't that amplify the prayer? The same thing happens when you do manifestation work. All of us get together and we focus our energies on that manifestation. Now you're saying, okay, what's a manifestation? It's a fulfillment of a need. A troubled pregnancy needs a healthy birth. A job is needed. A lost ID needs to be found. A career needs a lift. A health issue needs to be resolved. And we put our energies into this as a group and amplify that manifestation. We believe that because we know how to change energy, we control our destiny. There's not gods up there with a chessboard moving us around and saying, okay, I'm going to mess with this one and I'm going to move them over here. No. They give us knowledge, give us suggestions, give us parables through their stories that we can apply to change our own destiny. We are responsible for every act that we do, good or bad. We own it. Okay? The other question Philip asked me to say, just to address, is how do we live our faith on a daily basis? And I've kind of broken that down into two things. Private life. I am a person. I am not a high priestess 24/7, 365. I am a person just like anybody else in this room. So I live my life by that Wiccan Reed and the threefold rule. I look at every challenge and obstacle that is given to me as a learning opportunity. In 2009, I think I got a hysterectomy. 2010, I had my kidney removed. 2011, I had both breasts removed due to breast cancer. And when I went to my daughter, who was Christian, by the way, and told her that I had breast cancer, she was devastated. And I told her, I said, honey, there's a lesson here. I'm not getting it. These reoccurring health issues, there's a lesson here for me to learn, and I gotta learn it. She says, Mom, I wish you weren't such a slow learner. You're running out of spare body parts. But I learned it. I learned that I was in charge of my own health care. Until this point, doctors were on a pedestal, and whatever they said, I said, yes, sir, and I did. Well, I had doctors telling me things during that process that were harmful to my body. And I had to do my own research, I had to do my own advocacy, and I had to fight the surgeon to get the other breast taken off that he should have taken off in the first place. So I learned. And not only have I not had another major illness that cost me a body part, but I have been cured of hepatitis in the meanwhile. So I learned that lesson. And that lesson will go with me through all of the time. That is stored in my higher self, and I don't have to learn that one again. I'm ready for the next one. Hopefully it won't cost body parts. I work with specific patrons, gods, and goddesses. We don't pick the god and goddess, they pick us. I venerate them because of the growth and help that they have been in my life. My patron goddess is Hecate, my patron god is Anubis. And you'll hear certain pagan communities out there saying, oh, don't mix pantheons, don't mix pantheons. It works out fine. They have a very good relationship. I do shadow work. A lot of times you'll hear negative connotation, ooh, shadows, that must be bad. But there's a Japanese saying called kaizen, which means literally meditating on your belly button. And it's a form of self-reflection. When you have an issue that you need to work your way through, the first thing you see is probably not going to be the resolution of that issue. It's like an onion. You peel that layer off and, oh, maybe I need to think about this. And, oh, you peel off another layer. Until you finally get to the core issue that needs to be healed or resolved. And that's called shadow. Multi-generational decision making. I already spoke to that. And that's not a unique concept to the Correllian tradition. Native Americans make decisions based on 7 generations. The decisions that they make today in their tribal councils, they don't look at how it's just going to affect the people that are alive today or their children or their grandchildren. They're looking 7 generations down the road. And because I know my higher self can take a mission or a project or a life work through many generations, I'm making decisions not just on what's best for me and mine today, but how is that going to affect me? Because someday I'm going to be my own ancestor, right? Then the public life. And this is where it gets a little messy. I am a member of a minority religion that many people look at through a lens of misinformation and biases, conscious or unconscious. Just like my husband did. Now you can handle that in many ways. What I like to do is handle it as a teaching moment. I was in an airport one day, and there was a soldier in front of me in the security line, and there was a family behind me. And the woman asked if she could pray over the soldier as he was going off to Afghanistan. And he, of course, accepted her prayers graciously. I joined in. And when it was my turn to speak, I invoked God and Goddess and the ancestors, because that is how I view deity. And they were kind of like, what? And the soldier was wonderful. He thanked me, he thanked the family, and he went on to Afghanistan with a shield of protection over him. The family behind me stopped me on the other side of security and asked, "What faith are you?" And I said, and the woman got a horrified look on her face. The man was a little bit more open. And I took a second and explained that we all interpret deity how it makes sense to us. Everything in nature has male and female. I kind of think the gods do too. The other thing that you have to be careful of being a member of a minority religion safety issues. We are attacked. There's a pagan children's book writer in Tampa that has had her house repeatedly shotgunned because she is pagan. She's writing about fluffy bunnies. But yet, because she has that word pagan attached to her, somehow that makes her worthy of having a shotgun shot through her living room every couple of months. So the danger is real. I do not interview prospective members of Chosen Path Church at the church. I do it at a neutral third-party place so that I can read their energy and understand why this person has contacted me. And I've only luckily had to turn away 2 people in the 3 years that we have been doing this. But you have to be careful when you're a minority religion leader. I always look for the greater good when there is a public issue. And we seem to have a lot of them in the last 6 months. You can't just glom onto the bad. You gotta look for the greater good. And with all that has gone on, this country is finally politically active again. Hasn't been this active since the 60s. And that's a good thing. So look for the good. I also serve the solitary community. You'll find a lot of pagan groups that serve their group, but won't go outside of their group for whatever reason they have made that choice. I did not want a church as a pagan leader. I fought it tooth and nail, and the ancestors kept on whacking me upside the head with the 2x4. I wanted to serve the solitary community because when they go into the hospital, those chaplains don't know what they need. They need their room cleansed of negative energy. If they're talking to their long-departed grandfather, they're assuming they're high on morphine. No, their long-departed grandfather's probably talking to them, getting them ready to go through the veil. And then I have my faith leadership role. Not only as temple keeper of Chosen Path Church, but also a member of Nephilim, Northeast Florida Pagan Leadership Coalition. And there are several leaders here in the crowd today from Nephilim. Our mission is to educate the broader Jacksonville faith community about paganism so that they can understand that we're just like them. We're doing our spiritual search and finding our way. We support each other as clergy. We're a support group for each other. And we've got a whole list of things that we want to work on as a group. And then finally, the HRO. When there is an issue that needs faith leaders to step up and be a reflection of their community, it's our obligation as clergy to step up. And I was very active in the HRO fight to get equal rights for all of our citizens, protections for our citizens. So in closing, my faith makes me live beyond this one existence, this one physical existence, beyond this dimension and this time. I have to be the change that I want to see in the world. I have to honor faiths that may not honor mine. I have to learn the lessons that the universe is sending me. I have found the ability to do that through my tradition. There is no but in my tradition acceptance. I walk in peace on my chosen path. I encourage everyone, if you have not developed a nurturing, loving relationship with whatever concept of deity you can wrap your head around, keep on looking. It's out there somewhere. Because all religions have millions of practitioners behind them, so it called to them in some way. So explore them, find that relationship. I'm very happy that mine started here at UUCJ. Thank you very much.